Welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over? We are on episode 40, marking a very special episode. Last episode we saw that Lavender crumbled, and they are now just a mere shadow of its former self. We saw all these countries popping up as well, and we saw that Peach and their Democratic Alliance had a part in the downfall of Lavender as well. And we also saw the conclusion of the war against Red in the south, where the second half of the Fourth Great War started with. But not forgetting also the colonies started to grow a little bit as well. But today we will start here too. As Brown is going to expand their borders even more. And yeah, it's going pretty well for them. As well, of course, Magenta is also exploring more land. And eventually, they're going to meet to set up a proper border here. Without really going to intervene with one another. We have Magenta taking all this. And Brown taking all this. Making their border official right now. Magenta also makes an offer to Cyan. That they really want to set up a border as well. Before they just go out of hand with one another. And this will look like that. Cyan will get all these 3 pockets. They also had a few expeditions, but Magenta gains this and they can all gain the rest what's south of theirs. Making that actually happen as well. And Cyan is the next one who offers a new border together with Bronze so that everything is just worked out with one another. And that will look like that. Bronze accepts this offer and now is going to expand a little bit more as well, just to make their border and their land a little bit bigger, as they needed more land right here. Making that eventually look like this. Slade is also going down on the Mexican peninsula. And 2 groups are just venturing alongside both coasts. Also these islands are discovered, because this side also explored. They're all going down at the same time, and they didn't really want to stop before they found the ocean or maybe someone else. This first group went all the way down and eventually found this tip. And they guessed that it was now going back up north again. This side also went down and eventually came across this other group, making this their full colony now. And the other group, well, they went south. Yes, that was the plan all along from the governor. The governor really wants more land down there and really is interested in down there more than in the north. They like the warmer climate. They're going down and they aren't stopping at all until they find the border of Magenta. And at first, Magenta doesn't have a clue that they are there. Eventually they figure out that there is a group right here from Slade. And then things really go in an interesting way, as Magenta eventually figures out that this is Slade. Slade from all the way on the other side of the world. They are very, very confused as how Slade could be here, but of course, it is slowly getting realized that the Earth is round, as of course many other scientists around the world guess the Earth is round, because of, well, experiments and facts. But Slade was the first to actually discover this on Earth, officially, by just really proving it. And Magenta now also knows this, so quickly Brown knows this as well. And just the whole news spreads in the colony area. But Slade is being seen as a very dangerous country, so Magenta doesn't really act. Slade just goes up and alongside their border eventually, and just claims everything what's theirs before everyone could take it. And of course they also came across Cyan, but Cyan was informed before Slade got there, and they went alongside their border. Eventually, the group turned home as this news was brought to the governor. Elsewhere in the colonized world we have Orange. They are expanding their colony a little bit as well, also in the south and a little bit here as well. Their colony is getting bigger and bigger. But one day, in this very settlement, we see people getting sick. And with sick I mean really sick. People started to cough, to throw up, and everything is getting really bad, out of hand, and it feels like slowly but surely, day after day, week after week, that more people from the settlement are getting sick. This sickness is sadly also being brought to the other 4 settlements of this colonized area of Orange. It just goes so quickly, and people didn't really realize that they had the so-called virus and they could really spread it like this. And eventually all the settlements were infected with this virus. This settlement is really getting struck by this virus, but also the other ones. And this virus was very brutal, and eventually people started to die. The ruler of this colonized area didn't really know what to do and just waited so this eventually just settled itself. But without knowing and really taking attention and really not caring that much, a boat left with a man that had a cough. He said he has a cold, he's just not sure feeling so well. That boat went up to Dark Mint and it eventually went on land right there. The man got into a cafe and they did a drink, and eventually after a day and they have slept there, they continued their journey up north. Sadly, what the man left behind was of course the virus. And the virus spread really quickly here in Dark Mint, as this virus wasn't really known what was happening, and this virus was very harsh for them, and this whole southern coast was eventually sick. The ship eventually all the way arrived at Bronze, where they set foot on the island, on the newest settlement right here. Again and again, the man went into a cafe and eventually they slept and they went up north. And it happened at Grey and at Sea Green with Gold, and eventually they were back home with Orange. Orange without having a clue what this man brought to Europe. This settlement right here in Bronze had the virus eventually, and people were getting sick, as well as right here and right here. These three settlements were very hardly hit, as people didn't know that this virus was so dangerous. Eventually this island was struck as well. The place where the man also slept in this grey settlement was also hit, and eventually this spreads to the other settlements, and eventually this whole small peninsula was hit by this virus. With Sea Green as well, as this island was totally hit by this virus. And our last stop was in Iceland, and also there this virus was now spreading, and the man eventually went on land in Orange, but the man was starting to get really sick. In the beginning it wasn't really hard, but he was surviving pretty longer than other virus carriers. And sadly, the capital was hit by this virus. Eventually the man died because he really got sick, and the whole crew. And without knowing what they brought to Europe, it was going to be a very hard period for the Europeans. As in the more wealthy area, this virus spread like crazy, and the whole Orange countryside had eventually this virus. Orange was completely hit in their colony, not really at the outskirts where people didn't really go to the main settlements. And eventually the news spread that there was a kind of dangerous virus, so people stopped going to the wealthy settlements. But it was far too late, as other areas of the world were already infected by this virus. Bronze really got hit in their south, and on these islands, on these couple of islands, they were hit harsh. Grey was the quickest country to really take a part in this plague, and they really knew what was going on, and they quickly did not send many people to this infected area, and this really stayed right here. Sea Green on the other hand really let it out of hand, as this whole island was affected, and even this northern settlement as well, and their outskirts. It wasn't that quickly before the virus spread onto Iceland as well, and it went fast, as people didn't know what they were carrying. And eventually Iceland was completely covered. And this, for sure, was eventually known in Europe, and people started to not use the trade routes. Some countries stopped, as Dark Mint stopped their trade with Orange, and Gold stopped as well their trade with Orange. But they didn't know that their colonies got struck very harsh, that people that were going home also brought this virus with them, making this the very first plague in Wixo history. Leaving the plague behind for now, let's take a look at the recent newly formed countries right here. The country Honey was going to expand, as it was their first really great expedition after they set everything up. And they really prepared this time. As they went closely to the borders of Dark Magenta, and they stopped eventually right there. And on the other side, they hugged the border of Rosewood, but eventually stopped right here, going more down and ignoring the border of Rosewood. And the first expedition was very large, and they almost doubled their size. And the east, well, it was also pretty large, but then the south was tackled as well, making this their full border. They weren't fully happy yet, as they were interested more in this side, making these the last expeditions they did. The country grew with some settlements eventually, and mostly in their core territory as well. Now we jump to this country, and they did just one really big expedition. They made their country really grow, as they got funded by Beige. And after that also a few major cities started to pop up, as they had only their capital city before, but here we had two major cities grow. The next country is going to be Dark Green, the country that was involved in the last Great War, where they actually were really helping the Shield Pact. The Shield Pact eventually knew about this operation by them, and they even offered that Dark Green could join the Shield Pact, as because they knew that Red was not really happy what Dark Green did, and well, they really kindly did accept their offer, making the Shield Pact grow even more. But that was not the only thing they did. Dark Green was going to expand their borders, and they eventually found, yes, this country, Pastel Green, and they followed the borders, but also returned home, making this a very large expedition. They even went more south a little bit, but they quickly stopped as their border was getting pretty large there. The country is getting really large. We also see Red expand their borders, and they were quick this time around, as they gained all this, making Baby Blue a little bit stuck. But they also expanded their borders. They expanded their borders both in the west and in the east, but not really in their main area right here, because we have another country form stemming from Dark Orange, the country Hot Pink. They were in the way for this country, Baby Blue, to claim more land in their north, and what this country in total got was pretty large, and no one in the north was really interested anymore. Even Red stopped right there. This is their country now. Their capital city was right here, and they had a few major cities along the border of other countries, but also one in the middle after a few years. But in the meantime that all these countries expanded, Europe was hit hard by the plague. Orange got hit hard in the north of their country because of their trade routes. Sadly also, Dark Mint still got the plague because of people coming home from their colony, and it struck the capital. But it really got not really far from the capital, as the king quickly shut things down. Sadly, not everyone listened, and the outskirts were getting affected, and the trade route as well, as people were coming through from totally different countries which didn't really knew about this, well, plague popping up in the world. The north side of Bronze got hit very hard, even their capital, because people came home. And here with Gold, the settlements which were really communicating with Iceland. But Gold got not hit in their other colonies. But oh boy, the other colonies were hit very hard. Right here, Sea Green got the virus as well, and the island too. Even this small island down there, this northern island, got hit. People weren't careful at all. It even got out of hands in Grey in their colony, as this was just impossible to handle and to contain in a certain area. But it really stayed out of the northern part of Grey in the colony, as it really stuck to their coast. But in Bronze, in their colony, well, it was very hard. They couldn't maintain this virus and it spread up north, eventually taking over the whole peninsula. The whole colony of Dark Mint was hit, and more from Orange, but the outskirts still didn't really have the virus. But the virus spread as well in Europe more, as the trade routes didn't really shut down. The Seafoam Green Country got the virus in their capital, as well as down there in that settlement. Down in the Boot of Cyan, the virus was hit as well. And even right here on the coast, the virus was found. At the small settlement right here from reddish pink, the virus was also found. The capital of Indigo wasn't careful at all, and there the virus was spreading as well, even inside pink and gold. Indigo wasn't prepared for this virus at all. It also went south pretty far into another settlement. Now the other settlement right here of gold was also struck. Right here it also went into orange even because of the trade route, and the settlement here was struck. And even the peninsula of dark green, where the capital was struck by the virus. Lime wasn't struck at all. Magenta, as for now, was also not taken by this virus. Also out of these islands right here, brown, sea green and a part of orange weren't struck by this virus. But there was one place where the virus also struck. And it was inside of the capital of brown. It did eventually got there because of bronze. But people didn't really knew that this virus was there. Brown had almost no contact with the outside world other than magenta. And with that the virus spread very quickly to settlements other than the capital. It even got to this southern one. Around this coast it was very harshly hit as well. And then it was also found in magenta inside of their colony. Here up north along the coast was it very harshly hit as well. The plague was just getting kick-started, as the worst was still to come. As this plague slowly but surely ventured across Europe because of the trade routes and other people venturing between countries, this virus was far from over, threatening to go into Africa as well, maybe even Mesopotamia and the Lavender countries. What could the plague do if people aren't careful enough? Well, the plague was far from over, and this was just the very beginning.